Chapter 3. The Reality of the Law by C.S. Lewis. Hello, and welcome back to our journey through C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. In our last video, we explored Chapter 2, where Lewis argued for the existence of a universal moral law. In today's video, we will be delving into Chapter 3, The Reality of the Law, where Lewis will continue to explore the nature of this moral law and its implications for our understanding of God and the universe. Did you know that according to a recent survey, over 80% of people in the United States believe in some kind of higher power or spiritual force? This suggests that, despite our differences in beliefs and cultures, humans have an innate sense of the divine and a desire to understand the nature of the universe. In Chapter 3, Lewis begins by discussing the nature of the moral law. He argues that this law is not simply a set of arbitrary rules created by humans, but rather a reflection of a higher reality that transcends human opinion. To illustrate this point, Lewis uses the example of mathematical truths. Just as 2 plus 2 equals 4 is not simply a human invention, but rather a reflection of an objective reality, so too is the moral law a reflection of a deeper reality. Lewis goes on to argue that the moral law is not just an abstract concept, but a real force that shapes our lives and the world around us. He uses the example of a man who steals from his employer. While the man may think that he has gotten away with his crime, the moral law ensures that he will eventually face the consequences of his actions, whether in this life or the next. Quotes. The moral law tells us the tune we have to play. Our instincts are merely the keys. This quote highlights the idea that our natural instincts and desires are not inherently good or bad, but rather are like keys that must be played in accordance with the moral law. Just as a musician must play the right notes in order to create beautiful music, so too must we align our instincts with the moral law in order to live a fulfilling life. The moral law is not any one instinct or set of instincts. It is something which makes a kind of tune, the tune we call goodness or right conduct, by directing the instincts. This quote expands on the idea that the moral law is not simply a matter of following one set of instincts or desires, but rather a higher principle that directs and shapes our instincts towards a greater good. It suggests that the moral law is not just a restrictive force, but rather a liberating one that allows us to fulfill our potential as human beings. There are two ways in which the human machine goes wrong. One is when human individuals drift apart from one another, or else collide with one another and do one another damage, by cheating or bullying. The other is when things go wrong inside the individual, when the different parts of him, his different faculties and desires and so on, either drift apart or interfere with one another. This quote emphasizes the idea that the moral law is not just about external behavior, but also about the internal state of the individual. It suggests that our ability to align our instincts with the moral law is not just a matter of external discipline, but also requires a deep understanding of ourselves and our own inner workings. Conclusion. As we come to the end of Chapter 3 of Mere Christianity, it's clear that Lewis has a deep understanding of the nature of the moral law and its implications for our lives in the universe. By emphasizing the reality and power of the moral law, Lewis challenges us to live up to our highest ideals and strive towards a greater good. So, I invite you to join me in our next video as we continue to explore Lewis' ideas in Part 1 of Mere Christianity. In Chapter 4, we will delve into the concept of what lies behind the law, where Lewis will address the question of where this moral law comes from and what it tells us about the nature of God in the universe. In the meantime, I encourage you to reflect on the quotes we've discussed today and consider how they apply to your own life. Do you agree with Lewis' argument that the moral law is a real and powerful force in the universe? How can you align your instincts and desires with this higher principle? Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you in our next video. Thanks for watching.